Well, hello and welcome back to the channel. It's the big F7.1 meetup. For once, we're all finally together, all 7 of us. We drove up this morning from the Midlands, myself, Colin and Steve in the car. We actually recorded a landscape photography car cast, which will be coming out in a couple of weeks, or it may already be out. But yeah, had a good journey up. Well, some of us did. Unfortunately, Big D, his van broke down, so yeah, they got here quite late. But yeah, we're all here now anyway, and we're at Bamburgh Castle this evening. It is beautiful. We're staying in Haggerston at the Haven Caravan Park, and we're all staying in one big static caravan. All 7 of us, big burly blokes. God help the cleaners. But yeah, wow, it's a beautiful evening. We've got some beautiful clouds. Have had quite a lot of rain today, and some quite stormy looking clouds around. So yeah, it's a beautiful location, as I say. Really, Bamburgh Castle is going to be the main focus this afternoon or this evening, and yeah, trying to find some foreground either in these grasses here or possibly down towards the beach itself, where the rest of the guys are at the moment. Paul's just behind me in his van. So yeah, come along, should be a good adventure, and hopefully we can get some good images. Right, so we've all come down to the beach now, and it's proving to be a bit of a struggle. What we didn't account for was where the sun would be setting. It's setting pretty much over that direction there, which is creating these shadows on the floor. And I was hoping to use some of these rocks or some of these pools as a bit of a foreground interest, but unfortunately my shadows are in the shots. So what I've done is I've basically gone in at a long focal length of about 100mm, and just to basically cut out those shadows and focus on sort of more detailed shots, more zoomed in basically. So yeah, I've got a portrait orientation here, and this block of rock here that you can see has got this lovely sweeping from the left hand side, sweeping right round, leading the eye straight through to the castle there. And we have got some lovely light, as you can probably see, on the castle at the moment, and the clouds really are quite moody. It could be quite a nice image. Really quite nice. You've got the sand here on the left hand side as well, but there's some like pebbles that kind of lead straight in towards the castle as well. So you've got kind of 2 implied leading lines into the castle, one sweeping round from left to right, and then one sweeping, well, straight out towards the castle there. Really quite nice, and because you've got these sort of blue tones in the sky and these lovely warm tones on the ground here, that contrast between the blues and the sort of warm orange colours really works quite nicely. So yeah, I'm quite happy with this. I have had to focus stack it because the same about 100mm. I've taken about 4 shots, one sort of the immediate foreground, one sort of in the middle a bit, one a little bit further in towards the middle, and then one on the castle itself, and that should get everything that I want absolutely pin sharp. So yeah, if this works out any good, I'm going to pop it on screen for you now, but it's going to be a case really, I think, for the moment at least, walking around here, just trying to frame with some compositions using the telephoto lens, just to cut these sort of foreground shadows out. But still, great to be here, somewhere I've always wanted to come to, Northumberland. Yeah, only day 1, it's already delivering.
I'll be honest and admit I feel I've made a bit of an error on a couple of these images with regards to the balance of the image. Starting with this first photo here, I do love it. I do actually quite like that sweeping round effect to the castle. I love the drama in the sky. I love the colouring of the image. But what I'm struggling with, as I say, is to do with the balance. Because in my mind, what's happening here is the eye is kind of starting off on the bottom left-hand corner, sweeping around following those rocks to the castle. But because the sweep starts on the left-hand side of the image, and because the castle finishes on the left-hand side of the image, I feel the image is very kind of left-hand heavy. And you'll see that within a couple of the images in tonight's video, where if I had moved slightly left, I could have got that sweep in more from the right-hand side with the castle on the left-hand side, just giving that bit of extra balance. But still, I quite like the image. I just feel it could have been improved by just moving slightly to the left.
So you might all be wondering why I have that beautiful castle there to photograph and I'm pointing at the ground. Well, came across these inlet of water here, which has created these lovely sort of shapes within the sand here, which really stood out to me quite nicely. It's definitely not my normal sort of shot. But basically, to avoid getting shadows in the actual image, I'm not using the tripod, I'm using it handheld, and I'm pointing right down here at the ground. And I just found this one little spot here which has got some really nice shape to it, with this sort of, mainly on the left hand side, you've got these sort of wriggles coming through the image, and I'm just angled in such a way you've got sort of it's going across the image almost at a sort of 45-degree angle, and with the light that we've got, it's just creating this lovely contrast in the shapes here in the sand. So yeah, I don't know, not my normal sort of photography, very abstract, but yeah, something caught my eye anyway. I'll pop this on screen for you now, and yeah, just go and see if I can frame something else up. There's not just that castle to photograph as well. There is also one right out on the island over there. I think it's Farne Island, could be completely wrong, which has got some nice light at the moment, some lovely clouds. So I might stick the super telephoto on and go straight in on that castle there and see if I can make something of that island, and maybe even do a long exposure or something like that, because that's really quite appealing. Anyway, let me put this image on screen for you now. Sticking with something really simple here, put the super telephoto lens on as I mentioned, and I've zoomed out about 300mm towards the Farne Island there, and basically put in the castle building, I think it's a castle building anyway, on the left hand third, and the lighthouse pretty much on the right hand third. And what I'm doing is I'm putting a 10-stop filter on here to really slow the motion in the water, shooting at 13 seconds to really smooth out that water. But then I'll take another image just for the island itself and the clouds, where I want them to be a lot more sort of frozen, if you like. So we've still got that detail in the cloud. So I've taken the filters off for that, taken that second image. So what I'll do is when I get back in post, I'll blend those two in post, and it should make quite a nice, really simple, but quite effective image. I'll pop it on screen for you now. Sun is rapidly dropping quite a lot actually, and we have got some lovely golden light on the castle right now. So yeah, I'm gonna walk around and see if I can frame up something more with that castle, because that light is beautiful.
Quite happy with how this image turned out, but in retrospect I think it would have looked a lot better in a portrait orientation, given more room to the sky and just given that feeling of solitude within the image. If you stick around in this video to a bit later, you'll see I took a very similar image in portrait orientation, which I think turns out a lot better. But what I do really like about this particular photo is, and I didn't realise this at the time, but when you zoom in on that image, you can see hundreds of birds, which include puffins and Arctic terns, amongst others, not knowing that the following day we'd actually be going to this island to photograph those birds.
Pointing back towards the castle now, and I'm using the rocks that I was using in my first photo from here. Again, using that sweeping effect of the rock going around there to the castle, but by coming back here and shooting at 100mm, I'm able to just cut off the edge of that rock there. So you really do have that sort of definitive sweeping from the sort of right hand side straight through to the castle, pretty much on the left hand third. Really, really quite nice. And again, you've got that contrast between the oranges of the sand and the actual blues of the sky there. It really is quite nice. I'm placing the bottom third of the image, if you like, on the pretty much the horizon there, which is quite nice, and just getting quite a lot of that sky in there, because the clouds do have a lot of beautiful detail in them. Really do quite like this. There's have to be quite handy in post with this. There's a few people in the frame, so I have to go try and remove those, but should turn out to be quite a nice image anyway. I'll pop it on screen. So I'm going to start heading that way towards the castle a bit now, and see if we can find some more compositions. The foreground sort of a bit further forward over there. Try and exclude some of the people from the frame by doing so. And there seems to be quite a few photographers over there, so maybe there are some compositions to be had. But I think you could spend hours here and frame up loads of compositions. I just wish we were a bit earlier in the year, where the sun was kind of more at a 45-degree angle to the castle rather than directly behind us, because these shadows are an absolute nightmare. And I'm sure in the right light, you can get some fantastic, really close-up foregrounds here with the castle in the background. But we're just working with the conditions we've got, and that means using the telephoto lens. It is what it is. Right, so we have just had some cloud come through, which, as you can see, has created some shade here in the foreground, but we still had some light on the castle, so I have taken a shot already. In portrait orientation, was at about 35mm, and basically using this green moss here that's sweeping round beautifully along this rock here to the castle there. I tried the landscape one as well. It didn't work too well for me because I felt I was getting too much of the right hand side of this sort of sand here that's kind of leading you out the frame. So by going portrait, I really felt it was really focused on the foreground here and the castle there. The reason I chose 35mm for this is because I wanted to make the photo a bit more about the castle. I've seen quite a few images from this location in the past where people have come along, stuck a 16mm lens on, got really close to a foreground and made the castle there look really insignificant in the frame. But to me, that is the, that is the subject. This leading line here is just that. It's a leading line to the main focal point, which is the castle there. So at 35mm, I feel it's just the right balance to get the foreground in and make the photo really about the castle there. With the light we had, it looked really, really quite nice. So this, I hope, should turn out really quite nice. Let me pop it on screen for you now.
And here's another good example of an image that didn't quite work this evening due to balance. Now, I was quite excited at the time, having this beautiful leading line in towards the castle of this green sort of mossy looking pool leading straight out to the castle there, but I feel that the image is very sort of right hand heavy, with the predominant part of that sort of moss or seaweed or whatever you want to call it leading out to the castle being pretty much on the right hand side of the image. I also feel that the castle is a little bit too far to the right of the image, just beyond the Ruler Thirds. And yeah, it just feels like everything is kind of weighted to the right hand side, not helped by that big expanse of area in the sky above the castle where there is no cloud. That area of highlights really, I find, draws the eye to it. And also on the left hand side of the castle there out towards the sea, because there's nothing there, it all feels very right hand heavy. So there are ways I could have improved this image. I think I could have moved ever so slightly to the left to bring that castle more in frame, making it slightly more central in the image. But yeah, it's just one of those to learn from, unfortunately. One to go back to and try and get another day.
Okay, so I have just taken an image back with the super telephoto on, about 135mm, and I'm placing the Farn Island there, right in the centre of the frame, but really quite at the bottom of the frame there. What really stood out to me here was the beautiful cloud detail we've got in the clouds there, really quite dark and moody, but we have got this beautiful touch of soft light on the lighthouse on the right hand side of the island. It's really, really quite nice. By placing that island right at the bottom of the frame, I just feel it gives a sort of feeling of isolation to the image, completely ignoring any rules of thirds in this image. Really works quite nicely. So let me pop this on screen for you now, and I'm going to see if I can find another composition.
You'll see in the video that I referred to myself as taking this shot in the landscape orientation, and I did, but immediately after this piece to camera, I flipped the camera into portrait orientation and immediately found it to be a much stronger composition. Again, placing the Farn Island there right at the bottom of the image with just a small portion of the sea in, but having a lot of real estate for that sky, I think really gave the image that feeling of isolation. This island isolated in the middle of the sea, set amongst these dramatic looking clouds, I think really stood out to be a really dramatic looking image, and actually my favourite image of the evening.
As you can see, the light is pretty much faded completely. But I have taken one last image. It's not turned out how I hoped it would, but using this puddle here, took it handheld and got really right down on the floor with the camera, actually touching the floor. So by doing that, I was actually getting a reflection of the castle in this puddle here. The immediate foreground is completely out of focus. It's fine, it's not a problem. The only issue is that the clouds aren't quite how they want them to be. They're kind of all sort of balanced to the left-hand side of the frame. If they're a bit more balanced across the whole frame, I think it would work a lot nicer. But still, I think it's quite a nice image. I will pop it on screen for you anyway. But as I say, the light has pretty much died. We have got some nice colour in the clouds over there. and some nice clouds over there, but just no light on the castle and no light on the foreground. So I think I'm going to end it. Anyway, I really hope you've enjoyed this first episode from Northumberland, as much as I have anyway. It's great to be back out with these guys. As I say, very, very rare. In fact, the first time we've actually managed to get all 7 of us together. And yeah, great to all meet up in such a wonderful place. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you soon.